All right, welcome back to the New Sentinel. This is Chukwuka, and with me are my steadfast crew, Major Graves, Olga, and Duke. Today, we're talking about something making big waves, especially if you're in the service industry. The No Tax on Tips deduction from the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or OBBB. Now, this isn't just another tax tweak. This one's personal, and I'll tell you why in a sec. First, let's break it down. If you're a server, bartender, delivery driver, or work any of those tip jobs, the law says you can deduct up to $12,500 off your taxable income, or $25,000 if you're filing jointly. But there's a catch. This is only around for 4 years, from 2025 up to 2028. After that, poof, it's gone.
That's right, Chuck. And for folks like waitstaff or rideshare guys hustling in the big cities, this is real cash back in their pockets. But, reminder, once your household AGI goes above, $150,000 if single, $300,000 joint, the benefit starts dropping off, and by $400,000, $500,000, you're out. It's not for doctors or CEOs double-dipping as Uber drivers, strictly for the service grind.
Yeah, and as someone who's spent a decade eyeing line items and scrutinizing city budgets, this is the first time I've seen lawmakers pitch it as IRS giving you $25K free. Let's be clear, it's a deduction, not a check. Still, for people hustling tables or cocktails, that's a real impact. And you wanted to tell a story about your nephew down in Houston, right, Chuck?
Right. My nephew Tunde, he's bartending in Houston, does those 12-hour stints. When this came out, he sat down with one of those tax apps, maybe TurboTax, I think. Anyway, when he plugged in his numbers for the year, he figured his taxable income drops by about $21K in tips, thanks to the law. That alone slices his tax by about $4,500 for the year. Man was practically dancing behind the bar. So, this isn't hypothetical. It's real savings for real people. And we're not just talking about bar staff. Think hotel bellhops, DoorDash drivers, rideshare folks.
Absolutely, Chukwuka. And let's not forget, these are people often living paycheck to paycheck, sometimes immigrants, sometimes single parents and underpaid. This deduction can mean affording medication or paying next month's rent. I can't help but worry, though, about how many of these folks will actually know they qualify and won't miss out due to confusion or poor communication. But I'm sure we'll get to that. Right now, for those who make most of their income in tips, this deduction is a rare win.
Sure, and while it's a temporary measure, at least for 3 more years, it puts real dollars in their pockets. No hoops of itemization or complex credit stuff, just above the line, easy as it gets. The key thing is, it phases out fast for high earners. So yeah, simple, direct, and targeted, at least on paper.
So, let's talk big picture. Who pays for all this? The government's own numbers put the cost at somewhere between $150 and $200 billion over 4 years. That is not chicken feed. That's going to add to the federal deficit. Some say it's a small price to pay for helping workers. Others say it's a regressive giveaway. Depends on your politics, but money has to come from somewhere.
Yeah, and listen, you hand folks more money, some will say, hey, incentives work, people stay at their jobs longer, less turnover. That's what the numbers say. Hospitality turnover is, 70% a year? And now, you push an extra few grand into folks' accounts, maybe they'll stick around. So, sure, it's a boost, it's a retention tool. But, what happens in 2028 when this disappears? That's a hard landing right there. Call it a cliff effect. They'll get used to that extra cash, then gone.
I want to jump in, Duke. There is also the question about who really benefits. Yes, frontline workers get more disposable income, but if landlords and businesses know their tenants or staff suddenly have bigger paychecks, what's to stop rent or menu prices from going up? And if you phase it out suddenly, we could see people living on thinner ice than before. Plus, there is this risk of being left behind for those not fully aware or able to claim, single mothers working 2 jobs, or people with language barriers. It's not always equitable.
Olga's got a fair point. And any time there's a big payout, you got to think about the audit risks. Back when I managed finances at the precinct, I saw folks try to sneak stuff through, pad and expense reports, creative incidental claims, you name it. Now, imagine the IRS, already down 10% on staff trying to police who really earned those tips. Makes for a messy enforcement scene with the chance for collusive reporting. 2 or 3 co-workers could overstate their tips, split the tax break, and hope nobody's checking. With audits already down nationwide, there's a serious risk of fraud going unchecked.
And look, that's actually in the XAI intelligence report. Up to a 15% fraud rate is what they estimate, thanks to underreporting or, well, creative math, let's call it. But outside of actual fraud, a bigger problem is just confusion. Gig workers and hospitality staff aren't all tax experts. Some won't even know the deduction exists. Some will overreport and get audited, and the IRS might not catch errors until years later. Short term, it's a strong boost. Long term, we might see frustration, or even folks stuck with unexpected tax bills if the rules change or get enforced retroactively.
So let's look at what it actually takes to claim this deduction. If you're a tipped worker, you now have to file a new Schedule 1A, which just came out this July. All your tips, whether from cash, card, or the gig apps, need to be documented and reported, not just ballparked. TurboTax and H&R Block are sending out notifications to service workers, but a lot of folks still miss it. The IRS says they'll flag audits if tips are more than 20% above your base pay. So documentation is crucial, but I see so many people confused already.
Right. And this is where technology comes in. On paper, e-filing should make things easier, and I hear some apps have started to automatically log tips for you. Pretty neat stuff. But the reality is, about 20% of tipped workers are unbanked, especially among the lowest paid. No computer, no TurboTax, maybe not even a bank account. These guys are stuck. So, while the IRS and Congress talk about AI-powered compliance, that's only fixing half the problem.
And let's be honest, if you're on the road, driving nights for Uber, doing DoorDash, are you really keeping a detailed tip log or just stacking bills and receipts in your glove compartment? Even if you try, if the state laws don't line up, like some states aren't even on board with the federal rule yet, how are you going to know what you qualify for? Not everyone has an HR rep holding their hand.
Exactly, Duke. I was just up in New York last month talking to restaurant workers, mostly immigrants, a lot of single moms. They were hopeful, sure, but also totally confused. Some aren't sure if their state will match the federal deduction. Some heard rumors it's free money. But that's just not how it works. There's a gap in communication, maybe even a sense of disillusionment bubbling up, especially when people are trying to get ahead but face all these hurdles.
I'd like to see more boots on the ground help. That means outreach. Maybe the IRS and employers teaming up for town halls, like the military does before deployment. Show people step by step how to file, what to keep, what crosses the line. Otherwise, you risk a whole segment of workers missing out or getting burned in audits, and the fraud rate goes up. We gotta plug the enforcement and communication holes, or else the good intent here kind of fizzles out.
Yeah, and that's a good place to leave it for now. The no tax on tips deduction could be a big win for the folks who keep our restaurants, hotels, and cabs running, but only if it's fair, easy to claim, and properly enforced, not just in theory, but real life. Thanks, everyone. A lot of passion on this roundtable today. We'll be watching how this policy shakes out and which lessons Washington actually learns. You all take care. Olga, Major, Duke, always a pleasure.
Always a good debate. Keep your receipts, folks. Sentinel, out.
Thank you all. And if you're listening and you have questions or a story, reach out. We want to hear from you. Good night.
Semper Fi, team. Be smart with your deductions, and see you next episode.